Hi, Cora Stack here again. Good morning. And I was in Ranches recently, and everybody was saying bonjour, and it was lovely. Everybody was saying bonjour and merci, and it was so civilized. And we're kind of saying good morning here now. It hasn't the same rings, but I may as well say it on it because it's the best we can do it. It's not as good as bonjour. It hasn't got the same or merci or or wow or I know the French are very no they're so civilized. It's embarrassing really how uncivilized we've become. But anyway, good morning is becoming more part of the equivalent of bonjour, but perhaps it'll take off in time. So I'll say good morning as I that song by Ferry, what's his name? That Roxy Music, the Midnight Hour. That brilliant song, the Midnight Hour. I can't wait till the midnight hour, whatever it is. That'll be a great song. So, President nomination speak, Dr. Cora M. Stack, PhD. So this is what I was. This was my speech, and I unfortunately it was a little bit long and it was cut off. So, because of the 5 minute block, as I call it, 10 minutes is a chance, and 5 minutes is a block, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know how councils would agree 5 minutes. And again, I was saying in terms of governance, my experience in governance, allowing certain people have access to councillors without having written procedures and having them then say, well, I've given my vote to somebody else without having listen to your side of the story or there's something very dodgy about that, and that has to change going forward in terms of proper accountability and governance. So hopefully in future, my contribution here will result in significant change in procedures for people who are independent, fair and transparent but accountable. And certainly this getting votes in advance of meetings and then denying other people the opportunities of getting votes by promising your vote in advance is very dodgy, given that you're a public servant. So, I think it should be withheld until such time as everybody's contribution has been considered. So the nomination and the seconder. So it's very poor practice for public service. From my governance experience, I would stand up against that and say that's completely unacceptable. It's not fair. It's not transparent, not accountable, and that wouldn't be acceptable according to my standards of ethics at all. So governance ethics. So a chean chóirle a las chean chóirle agus a chóirlúiste. I think I needed a gúnúiste. I stand before you today with humility and with a profound sense of responsibility. That's because I am a humble person. People say I'm too modest. Seeking your nomination for the presidency of Ireland. Public service is never easy. It demands sacrifice, hard choices, and perseverance. For your dedication to your communities, I offer my deepest respect and gratitude. I thought it was good to say a few points here now. I have this is my speech, but I have just put it through AI just to put a bit of clarity or put a structure on it, but it's all my own ideas and everything else like that. Integrity and independence. I enter this campaign later than others because I first fulfilled my obligations in higher education, resolved conflicts of interest, because that's something I'm very concerned about from my years in governance. 10 years in governments. I mean, again, it's ethics, in leadership. That's what it's all about. So that 10 years, it was a very good education in the importance of ethics and leadership. And there was, there was a few that weren't, and unfortunately, but that happens everywhere. That decision cost me time, but it preserved what matters most: integrity. And integrity is the foundation for trust. I stand before you today with clarity of purpose, independence of mind, and no compromise of principle. Sure, that's the way I was during my governance, why it was considered exceptional. Guardian of the Constitution, then. As President, I will be guardian of the Constitution. Now, of course, I would be very supportive of new legislation, which I think would, if it was fairer to the in favour of the common good, so it wouldn't be, you would like to be able to put legislation through, that would be in favour of the common good, and that there would be that, and the Supreme Commander of the Defence Forces. But let me be clear, this means standing not for militarism, which I'm against the military option, but for peace. I will stand up against bullying, and I mentioned this now, and was what coercion, the 5 minute coercion. I wouldn't allow that happen again. And gaslighting. Well, I wouldn't have any choice, would I? But anyway, I wouldn't be in favour of it at this point. I feel the 5 minutes is coercion, whether in families, workplaces, or institutions. And again, we've only 3 weeks to the election after that. That's, to me, is coercion for people who haven't been in the campaign, for weeks and weeks. So the parties that are in power are way ahead of the rest of us, and they haven't even given us time to not only to prepare for at this level, but then a quick run in to the election, which sounds like more coercion against elections. Allegedly. My readiness comes from governance. For almost 10 years, I was the only female governor of a national university. I learned to listen carefully, to weigh different voices, which is what I do on my site. It's getting more and more popular. And it's very quiet because I don't advertise. To negotiate with dignity and to hold firm when principle demanded it. That experience strengthened my independence and prepared me for the solemn responsibilities of the presidency. Who I am, I'm Dr. Cora M. Stack, PhD, and many things besides. For nearly 3 decades, I have taught, served, and researched and served in mathematics education, public. More recently, used that mathematical rigour and methodology to engage, to analyse many complex matters, which not just are relevant to Ireland, but worldwide in public, legal, housing, social policy, and many other types of policy. Child welfare policy, workplace abuse and bullying and all that kind of policy, anything at all. My policy research is receiving worldwide attention at the moment, because every day I'm getting letters from academia.iu, so from all over the world is reading this and they're reading that and the other. So I'm very happy that it's already having global impact, which confirms why I got the leader. I was honoured to be the first Irish academic to receive the Ramanujan, who's a Nobel Prize winner award for excellent academic leadership, and that's well before I became familiar with ChatGPT, for God's sake. But this campaign is not about titles or awards, it's about service, about bringing what I have learned as a scholar, a teacher and a governor to serve the people. I've already brought that knowledge to looking at the governance, in terms of the governance, what should be the proper governance procedures with regard to the whole nomination process, of independent candidates. And I've already brought insight into the flaws there that are very serious in terms of accountability and fairness. Very, very serious. So I've already been able to do something major, in my opinion. So the first the 4 presidential pillars. I offer you a presidency built on 4 pillars: peace, protection, people, and principles. Peace. I will uphold the Good Friday Agreement. That wasn't even mentioned in any of the soundbites, as the living covenant of reconciliation. I will champion arbitration. This is my big thing. And trauma-informed mediation in civil, family and criminal law. So I'm saying we need to right across the spectrum, even in criminal law, and it should be embedded into the legislation for these all these elements of law. And this wouldn't be this wouldn't be popular now with very expensive solicitors, But they should not be dictating justice, because that's just justice for the few, not the many. So justice must be accessible, affordable, and humane. And that's why I think we need arbitration in the criminal law as well as all the other laws, so that we have a humane justice system. As head of the Defence Forces, I will stand for peace, not militarism, so that abroad Ireland continues to be seen as a nation of peacemakers. Protection. I will champion the rights of children, of students, of the elderly, and of those too often overlooked, the vulnerable, the voiceless, the overburdened. Within the limits of the Constitution, the President cannot govern or legislate, but the President can shine a light on hidden struggles and assure that no person is left unseen. I will champion survivors of abuse, trauma, cruelty and violation in all its forms. It sounds like myself. going around the election. I will honour their courage, uphold their dignity, and insist their voices are respected in our society. And I will spotlight the freedoms that protect our democracy: freedom of thought, freedom of expression, and in particular, freedom of the press. I will not expect the press to kowtow to me. Absolutely not. Abroad, I will safeguard Ireland's reputation as a nation of fairness and ethics, a country that protects dignity, resists coercion. This was very important in my speech, it wasn't mentioned, and upholds rights. People, we are a nation of creativity and innovation, with musicians, writers, storytellers, and athletes who inspire the world. But we're also a nation of builders, makers, and entrepreneurs. Small and medium-sized businesses are the backbone of our economy. They embody our entrepreneurial spirit, our resilience, and our local identity. Yet, today, the rising cost of living, well, that's how I started with the huge response to my video on electricity, and all over the world. And there's war over the crisis of the essential cost of electricity. It's crippling people, and in cold countries, it's desperate altogether. Yet today, the rising cost of living and the pressures of global markets are crushing many of them. I went into that in my videos, the pressures of the global markets, that's how that's impacting us as well, and then everybody's taking their cut, and it's cumulative, If we're not careful, Ireland risks losing part of its soul. People would say that's already lost part of the soul. That's already happened, and that's the balance between enterprise and community. So the focus on rebuilding community also was completely ignored, which is very important for me. This kind of balance. We see this most clearly in rural Ireland. I've mentioned this several times. It wasn't mentioned. Too many towns and villages are hollowing out. Bars, shops, post offices, and butchers are closing. Boutiques have disappeared. Even access to cash machines and banks is vanishing. Poor public transport compounds the problem, leaving communities cut off, fueling social isolation and loneliness. This is not just an economic issue. It is about dignity, identity, and connection. A country whose rural Ireland declines is a country diminished. Revitalising towns and villages, supporting local businesses, and strengthening rural services must be part of our national vision. Our excellence in the tech sector, the pharmaceutical sector, our indigenous food companies, our craft industries, and our new renewable energies shows that Ireland can achieve what Ireland can achieve. But we must never let greed replace values. This was another point I made, which was completely missed, was overlooked, as if that's not important, that we must never let greed replace values. Could that define the new Ireland? That greed has replaced values? Is it not a very fair point that should have been highlighted? We must never allow economic success to come at the expense of dignity, fairness, and community, people and otherwise. At home, I will highlight these struggles and celebrate those who sustain jobs, families, and traditions across town and villages. Abroad, I will showcase Ireland not only as a hub of innovation, but as a nation whose economic strength, is rooted in people, affairs, and balance. And I hope the Sinn Féin people won't take all this and ascribe it as theirs. That's they always said everything. You have to give a few cards back for those Sinn Féiners. They're very, very clever, really. They copy and paste. Well, they can't copy and paste my position in they allegedly. Political chess, I call it. The thing about it is that they can't copy my position on the Good Friday Agreement, because I'm not willing to change it. So that's one thing they can't copy. and I'm not going to bend in that regard to get their support. No, because I'm not like that. I'm a negotiator, but that's not. So my years of policy research and governance have taught me that excellence and ethics must go hand in hand. Was that no, that was mentioned at all, of course. So that put me in a good light, of course. You see, and why didn't you get the nomination? You see the crack. They think I don't spot it. Who do they think I am? Our education system is the cornerstone of our country. I mentioned that before, has given us the skills to thrive in a science, technology, and business. But education must also remind us of who we are, a people of fairness, care, and dignity. I'm always saying this: we need ethics in education, and we need to teach ethics in education. There's no ethics being taught, in the curriculum. And I've written, I've written to the powers that be saying we need to have curriculum and ethics because there's such a lack of it. I mean, it's not quite religion, but it's the best we could do is treat it's everybody can learn ethics, in a broad sense, and I think it should be included in the primary curriculum and beyond and beyond and beyond, with more and more complexity as people get a bit older, and that's all part of dignity and respect as well. It could all be blended in together, and it's not just once off. This has to be, every week, or like civics, and that kind of thing. Once a week, ethics and dignity and respect, all that kind of thing, proper communication and all of that sort of stuff. I'm a champion balance. That's the important thing about me. I'm balanced. I've done tests, and they always say I'm balanced. With kind of rigor between innovation and inclusion. This was another big thing about me, inclusion, that wasn't mentioned at all. Between prosperity and principle, I will shine a light on the dangers of unbridled greed, that wasn't mentioned, and call us back to the values that built our republic. And Ireland progress must never mean leaving people behind or holding them back. That's the other side of it, which I'm trying to do. That's balance. I will bring ethics into governance, into law, into public life. I will call out human rights violations whenever they occur. And abroad, I will represent Ireland as a nation of values, fairness, justice, compassion, informed by global policy work. I mean, the amount of global policy work is massive because I have a huge brain and I'm always learning. I'm a lifelong learner. I mean, I don't know how my brain has all what it's in, but it's just like a sponge. I mean, grounded in dignity and alive to the great challenges the world must face, because I have a great mind for complexity. The more complex, the better. So I won't, so a presidency of listening and action. From the beginning, I will listen, and this was mentioned. This was a big, I thought this was a great thing. Not a mention of it, because I listened to Labour and Communications, and it's brilliant. But I was trying to see how that could be weaved into the presidency here. To get that kind of contact with the people, with ordinary people. I will convene the Council of State. I will launch President in Communication, a platform for dialogue with the people. So this was a huge thing. It wasn't even mentioned again. It was minimisation. Oh, shocking gaslighting. But I will not only listen, I will act. I will be an active president. I will travel to towns, villages and cities. I will celebrate with you in joy, and I will stand with you in hardship. Not to mention, no person will be unseen, no voice unheard, no contribution unrecognised. Empathy, carers and community. But empathy must guide us too. We must honour our carers, those who day and night. I know what it is like to care because I've done it. So I know what it's like to I know the struggle, of caring for people, in difficult situations. Those who day and night support children, adults with disabilities or illnesses or chronic conditions, the elderly and the frail. Their courage is immense. Their sacrifice great. Their talents too often overlooked. In their struggles, we see the greatness of quiet heroism. But I understand that because, I have experience. I have that kind of experience. So we must also confront the chronic loneliness and social isolation that shadows so many lives. We're the worst in Europe in terms of isolation. We've become such obsessed with greed, and as I say, obsessed with consumption, as Brendan Boucher would put it. I'll have to put him in here because I've been very inspired by the great Brendan Bouchard and the great Jordan Peterson and Dr. what's his name, the Irish fellow. He had a brilliant podcast called Fill in the Blanks. Seriously, this is what this is all about. Fill in the blanks. That's how I started listening to his Fill in the Blanks. He's a super smart guy, very nice guy, and he's seen in Ireland quite a lot because he's Irish connections. And Brendan Boucher was brought up in a Catholic area in Montana, I think, and I listen to, and of course Jordan Peterson is fantastic. He's still going very strong, and he looks amazing. And they're fantastic guys to listen to. And all these, motivation speakers. Jim Rohn motivation is excellent. They're excellent, and I recommend them for anybody, because this is how I can be as strong as I am from doing all this personal development. And they're all for high performers, and and they always they always eat well. But I don't get through to. I listen to all these great psychologists, so they're brilliant. The motivators, they're fantastic. So the presidency can shine a light here. I'm very fond of Brendan Bouchard and then Jordan Peterson. Well, he's Jordan Peterson. He's just an amazing brain altogether. He's phenomenal. And Jim Rohn is very kind of sensible, real sensible kind of motivation. And these motivational speakers are excellent and very much listening to. And the podcasts are brilliant because they're more in depth. And Mel, my friend Mel, she's great as well, she's fantastic for the women. So President can shine a light here, encouraging unity that begins in families. And who else do I admire? Melinda Gates. She's a great woman, a marvellous woman. And Richard Branson, he's fantastic. But Melinda Gates is absolutely marvellous, full of common sense. And I really like Melinda Gates. She's fantastic, beautiful woman. Very, very, very nice person. So encouraging unity that begins in families, neighbours, towns and cities, rebuilding bonds of community so that no one is left unseen, no one left alone. I will shine a light on the homeless, on the vulnerable, on the voiceless, and on the squeeze middle, which is very much part of my candidacy, carrying so much of our nation's burdens. I meet them every day of the week, and they say, "What are we working for? What are we working for? We're ending up with nothing, So I said, well, let me see, can I do something about that? Shine a light on those struggles. Yeah. Giving everything and ending up with nothing. So I will, this is how a lot of people feel in Ireland, just stressed from paying bills and, working and trying to keep the show on the road and have dignity to go out to work, and end up feeling that they're being squeezed to the hilt and paying everything and getting nothing in return, or getting the least in return, perhaps would be better way about it. I will champion carers, volunteers and community builders. I will confront the housing shortage, shine a light on it, health inequalities and the rising cost of living, which is electricity and all those essential bills. I've talked about that in other videos, and I've kind of broken it down, where all these hidden costs are coming from and how they're done, and there's that bit, they're always going ahead of the inflation rate, and so all the time your purchasing power is being reduced. That's shocking, really, when you looked at it and examined it. So, but let me speak plainly about the everyday struggles facing our citizens. House prices are crippling. Rents are skyrocketing. The cost of electricity, heating, oil, gas, food and insurance is spiralling out of control. I mean, all we need to do is look at your bills, but it's the way they're, I've looked at how they're increasing their premiums every year above inflation, and that's happening over a long period of time. So the squeeze middle really are really getting more and more without realising it, because of the way, they're not scrutinised enough by they mustn't be scrutinised. They're all, regulated. No, they're not regulated enough if they're allowed to increase their prices above inflation. That's not regulation. So I'd have to take issue with we are regulated by this and we're regulated by that. No, that's poor regulation. Too often, excessive greed takes over at the expense of the squeezed middle. Those who give the most yet feel they get the least in return. Teachers, nurses, carers, public service and essential workers, those who keep our nation running, can no longer afford to live near their workplaces. They're forced into punishing commutes that rob them of time, energy and quality of life, which is extremely important in our short in the speck of dust that our life is. If we are to renew trust in our republic, the presidency must not only embody dignity, but also show deep understanding about these daily realities. Ireland, its rich culture and heritage. Ireland's strength has always flowed from its heritage, from our poets and playwrights, our musicians and dancers, our storytellers and scholars, from the Book of Kells to Ulysses, from Shannon Oates to Riverdance. Well, I wouldn't know anything about Shannon Oates coming from Kerry. Our culture has carried Ireland's spirit across the world. But heritage is not only history, it lives in every fiddle player at a small pub, every mural painted on a city wall, every young writer putting pen to paper. It lives in the Irish language. I know nothing about Irish language, because I'm from Kerry. Cúntaí Chuirí, in our folklore and in the quiet resilience of our communities. As President, I will celebrate that living culture, not as nostalgia, but as a source of identity, pride, and inspiration for the future. Our heritage binds us together, connects us to the world, and reminds us that Ireland is just not an economy, but a people with a soul. But that's what we were, the land of saints and scholars, instead of the land of the greedy. That will walk over the neighbour without even thinking. Ireland in the world, and I'm trying to change that. Again, it's with this vision. Ireland in the world and abroad, we cannot be silent. From Gaza to Ukraine, from Sudan to places less reported, and the world cries out against horror and injustice. At home too, human rights must never be taken for granted. Ireland can lead not with might but with wisdom, by championing education and negotiation, arbitration, trauma-informed mediation and diplomacy. We can help to resolve conflict with respect, fairness and justice. So this is a big part of my vision, a new, mostly legal system, but a legal system which puts arbitration and negotiation, all these things before litigation, so that it's a win-win for everybody. I mean, it's what Harvard are advocating for business, and we're not using it for politics. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. From families to schools, from workplaces to international tables, we must be peacemakers. So, closing then, a call for support. I'm looking for the county councillors. I suppose they won't be watching this, but if they are, at the last minute, to nominate and second me, because I wasn't the first in. In fact, I was the last in. So because I wasn't aware, there was no written procedures about how to, what was required that you'd have to get. And a lot of us were in the same position, and there's a lot of issues, and